Take a look at this visual. 4 members of Congress, 4 American citizens, 4 duly elected members of the U.S. House of Representatives, each elected in the wave of 2018, which was itself largely a rebuke to President Trump and Trumpism. You are looking at what we just saw, what just happened here in Washington, that is being seen around America. Representatives Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib speaking out together to rebuke the president for what they call his racist, race-baiting, hateful, and misleading claims and attacks on them. And when they came to that lectern within this last hour, it was the first time the 4 joined together to respond.
The recent tweets and words from the president are simply a continuation of his racist and xenophobic playbook.
This is the agenda of white nationalists.
This country belongs to you, and it belongs to everyone. And today, that notion, that very notion, was challenged.
This is a distraction, and we should not take the bait.
This is his plan to pit us against one another.
That is new. That is the response from one arm of your government. The other arm of government in our system, led by Donald Trump, doubled down on xenophobia today.
If you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. If you're complaining all the time, very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now. You have somebody that comes from Somalia, which is a failed government. These are people that hate our country. Right. Hey, John, they hate our country. Right. They hate it, I think, with a passion. If they don't like it here, they can leave.
Donald Trump's comments today are drawing fire, they're drawing condemnation, they're drawing disappointment across America as racist and patently xenophobic slurs. The Speaker of the House is pushing a formal resolution to condemn Donald Trump's racism. And in a different time, perhaps the leaders of both parties in Congress would say they're against this. They stand against this at least for a day in public. But today's not that day. I have to report to you that the leader on the Senate side of the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, refused to even comment on this when reporters caught up with him. Meanwhile, asked today point blank if he was not concerned that white nationalist groups find common cause with him, President Trump, to that question said no, he's not concerned. And this is where I want to dig in a little bit for a moment tonight. Why would he be? This is all out in the open. Donald Trump is invoking the language and the argument of white nationalists in America for a long time coming. You know, there's a classic editorial cartoon that shows Americans yelling at a Native American to, quote, go back where you came from. But since every non-Native American is an immigrant, in this cartoon world of events, the Native Americans responds, you took the words right out of my mouth. But this history goes beyond logical games and arguments and cartoons. This history is very real. When the United States fought over segregation, when troops were called in to protect black children who just were supposed to go to school in Little Rock, the New York Times reported on a 15-year-old black teenager surrounded then, this was the front of the paper that day, surrounded by a reportedly, quote, jeering crowd. And the Times reports that several troops had to use their clubs to push that crowd back to prevent anyone from molesting her. Quote, don't let her in. Go back where you came from, that crowd yelled. When a Black Panther activist went to protest the Attica prison in 1971 to draw attention to how people are treated in prison in this country, an issue we think about today, she relayed the reception she received there. Quote, we were threatened at gunpoint and told go back where you came from. Or when the famous pianist Walter Herzog, who fled the Nazis in Europe to come to our country, to come here to America, and then when asked, he refused to perform for an Alabama promoter who, he learned, it turned out, wanted to ban black Americans from that concert. He told that promoter, you're as bad as the Nazis. And they said back to him, go back where you came from. Go back. That's what those white nationalists told a Jew who fled the Nazis and wanted to simply stand up for equality right here in America, in our country. That's the ugly history in the context of the sitting president telling American citizens and the opposition party to go back where they came from. Everyone knows what he's saying. So when what he says is met with silence by literally hundreds of Republicans in Congress, it raises the deeper questions that go beyond Donald Trump. Take this Southern paper today, the Charlotte Observer, asking, are you okay with a racist president, Republicans? Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.